Hello, my name is LoG, and welcome to another edition of LoG Power-Ups. Today's power-up, we will focus on connecting the minor sound with its Set Up Diminished by using a variety of ascending and descending arpeggios. If you have not seen my previous lesson on this topic, I highly recommend you click the link above to check it out, just so you understand all of the terminology and the numbers that I'm using throughout this series. This power-up will be split into parts 1, 2, 3, 4, with each video ending with a backing track that gradually increases tempo. Once you have all the parts down, you'll play over the final video, which again will have a backing track that gradually increases tempo. If you enjoy this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. And now let's get on to part 1. So the concept behind this power-up is really simple. All we're really doing is ascending one type of arpeggio and then descending the other type of arpeggio. That's it. And each one is always going to be 4 notes worth. So 4 notes of this arpeggio up, 4 notes of the next one down. That's all it is. And the vast majority of the time when we are moving through different chord types, we're really just playing minor and then its set up diminished. In this case, A flat minor and later on D flat minor. So that's going to be the idea. We'll walk up 4 notes of A flat minor, for example, and then down 4 notes of its set up diminished chord. And the way that we find that diminished chord is by simply looking for the closest starting point for the diminished sound. And if you've gone through my previous lesson where I talk about this, you should know that these starting points for diminished, when you're looking at minor, are 7, 2, 4, and flat 6. So if you're playing a minor chord and you want to play a diminished idea over it or leading into it, you can start your diminished idea on 7, 2, 4, or flat 6 of that minor chord. And that's exactly what I'm doing right here. So let's get started with how it goes. So I'm starting with A flat minor is the first one that I play, and I'm simply playing 4 notes of A flat minor arpeggio from the root to the next root. So that looks like this: 1, flat 3, 5, 1. That simple, right? And I'm using these 2 different fingers because it's comfortable for some reason. If you want to flatten the finger like that from the 5 to the 1, do whatever you want. You can definitely do that. Now, once we are at the top of that A flat minor, I need to find a location for diminished. Remember, I'm just looking for the closest spot that I can start diminished. And because I'm on the root right here, that was the last note I played, 7 would be the closest note. So it's simply back a fret, and then I descend 4 notes worth of that diminished. And we're just going through minor thirds, right? So there's our natural 7, our flat 6 of A flat minor, 4 of A flat minor, 2 of A flat minor. And that's all minor thirds, right? Like that. So up the first one, minor, down the diminished, back a fret. Just like that. Then we continue through into the same A flat minor chord, but instead of playing 1 to 1, 1, flat 3, 5, 1, or root to root, I'm playing flat 3 to flat 3. So it's kind of like an inversion of that same arpeggio. So flat 3, 5, 1, flat 3. Still A flat minor. It doesn't really feel like it, but it definitely is. We're just moving from the flat 3 to the next flat 3. So flat 3, 5, 1, flat 3. So let me play just those 3 little parts. First one, 1 to 1, A flat minor. Right? Down the diminished, starting on the fret back, the 7, 4 notes worth. And then the next note is simply up a fret, the flat 3 to flat 3. Just like that. And then we do the same idea. Move back a fret to start the next diminished, because that's 2, and that's the nearest diminished starting point that we can use. 2, 7, flat 6, and then 4. Just like that. Sorry if you can't see, it's kind of a stretchy one. 2 notes on the same string, next string, next string. And then we simply end this passage, or this part at least, on the 5 right there. And that's where we'll begin the next inversion, which will be in part 2. So that's that concept, right? Really straightforward. I'll play it a couple times slower. So again, 1, flat 3, 5, 1, pull back a fret diminished, down minor thirds. Then we go to the flat 3 and move up to the flat 3. Flat 3, 5, 1, flat 3, go back a fret, down the diminished. And then we end on this 5 right there. So that's really all it is. Because of the simplicity of these shapes and kind of the very normal nature of just minor arpeggios and diminished arpeggios, we do have the ability to wildly change the fingering of these parts. Like, I'm doing it a certain way because it's comfortable for me, or, you know, it works out for my technique. But by all means, experiment with how you want to play these. You do not have to play it like this. There are so many ways to play a minor arpeggio. There are even more ways to play a diminished arpeggio. So you can definitely sit there and experiment like crazy until you find one that really locks in with you, and settle on that, even though it's not at all, you know, not the same way that I'm doing it. It doesn't matter. As long as the notes are the same, you'll be good. So for example, you can play, a minor arpeggio like I've been doing, 1, flat 3, 5, 1, but you can also play 1, flat 3, 5, 1, right? I was playing the flat 3 right here earlier, but now I'm playing it right there. Do that, whatever. If it's comfortable, that might be the better choice. Or you can move almost everything. You can play 1, flat 3, 5, 1 if you want to. Again, all of those, they're all the same shape. It's the same as this, same as this. They're all the same. Of course, they are wildly different feeling and, especially for the right hand as well. So it's kind of up to you to figure out, which ones work the best. But you might actually maybe like that one. You do this and then you slide up, to play the diminished in using a different finger. So instead of doing this, which is what I've been doing, maybe you can play this and do that. Like that's the same exact thing, just again, a different fingering, and I'm just adapting depending on how I want to play it. So go crazy with the fingering. You can just simply do exactly what I'm doing and that's fine, or you can experiment and try to find some different ones that make the most sense with you. Now that also brings me to the right hand. The right hand is going to determine what the left hand is going to be doing generally, at least that's how it is for me. The way that I'm playing it works really well with how I naturally play, with my right hand at least. Might not work well for you, but that's up to you to decide. This is how I'm doing it. I'll kind of show you what I'm doing here. Again, you don't have to do what I'm doing, but if you're curious or you want to copy what I'm doing, this is what it is. And my method of playing stuff like this is pretty straightforward. It's if I have multiple notes on one string, I'm hammering or pulling. So if the note is up, I'm hammering on. If the note is back, I'm pulling off. That's pretty much always happening, more or less. If I'm going this way, so going down the strings or moving up in pitch, I will be using pick and fingers, okay? And then if I'm going the opposite way, going up the strings or down in pitch, I will be using a mixture of like economy picking. So that's, an upstroke handling multiple strings. So I'll just show you exactly what that is. It's going to follow what I just said pretty perfectly. So first arpeggio, just the 1 to the 1 A flat minor, right? That's pick, hammer on, 2 notes on the same string. Then middle finger on my right hand, middle finger on the A string, ring finger on the D string, just like that. So pick, hammer on, middle finger, ring finger. That's how I'm doing it. And then down the diminished, downstroke to start the shape, then upstroke to handle both of those strings, right? Downstroke, upstroke, follow through into the E string, and then pull off right there, like that, right? Downstroke, upstroke, follow through, pull off. And then for the next passage, going to be very similar. Downstroke, middle finger, ring finger, right? Because I'm moving through 3 adjacent strings, downstroke, middle finger, ring finger. The next note's on the same string, so I'm going to hammer on like that. Just like that. Very, very comfortable shape to get once you have the picking down. There's no way I could alternate pick that fast, by the way, which is why this technique works really well. Yeah. So anyway, after that, we're coming down the diminished again, back a fret, starting on the 2. And same idea. I'm doing a pick, pull off, and then an upstroke handling the next 2 notes. Upstroke, follow through. So downstroke, pull off, upstroke, follow through, right? And then simply playing that next note with a downstroke, and that will be the beginning of the next part. So watch my hand. I'm going to play it slowly, and you can kind of see how it flows. So here's the whole thing. I'll play a little faster. So once you get it going, it actually flows pretty well. Again, these shapes are sometimes, kind of stretchy, the diminished shapes when you're playing, 2 whole steps worth of jumps, it can be a little tricky, but once you get it going and once you get your comfortable fingering and right hand configuration, it flows pretty well and it can be pretty gratifying to play. So that's pretty much it. It really comes down to memorizing the notes, understanding the concept of what's happening and getting your fingering, and you'll be good to go. I will say, conceptually, this is a pretty straightforward power-up. There's nothing really crazy musically happening. It is not easy to play. This one took me some time to be able to play it consistently at tempo. So, if it's taking you a long time to get this one down, don't worry. It did the same exact thing for me. But again, it does, for me at least, it massively helped my technique even just in the couple weeks that I spent practicing it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, get your technique down, memorize all the notes, be able to play it seamlessly. And then when you're ready, you can come back to this part of the video where we will run the backing track that I believe moves from 60 to 120. right, that does it for part 1 of this minor diminished power-up. As usual, if you enjoy this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. See you guys in part 2.